I was just swinging my rod back to cast when 3 patrol cars rolled up the gravel access road, their light bars painting the glassy lake surface in frantic pulses of blue and red. Up on the community dock stood Denise Harcourt, the HOA president, phone clamped to her ear, voice carrying across the water as she screeched about a dangerous transient illegally trespassing on private association property. The officers climbed out and started down the path toward me with that deliberate cop stride. Then they stopped dead the instant they got a clear look at my face. Every radio on their belts went quiet at once. One of them, a tall guy with gray at his temples, actually whispered, "Holy hell, sir, it really is you. My name is Miles Vance. At 50, I'd built a technology empire valued in the billions while somehow staying almost entirely off the public radar. I own the biggest lakefront compound in Pine Hollow Shores, a sprawling piece of land most of my neighbors have never connected to me. I treasure that anonymity more than the money. I'll take a quiet dawn on the water over another forced smile hole wine and cheese nightmare any day. So I usually fish in a ratty cap pulled low, sunglasses on, looking like any other early riser." Denise Harcourt, on the other hand, treats her 3-year reign as HOA president like she's the queen of a petty fiefdom. 55, salon blonde, always in $600 athleisure. She never sweats in. She stalks the neighborhood hunting covenant violations the way a hawk hunts field mice. It all started 6 months earlier when she first spotted me casting from what she mistakenly believed was common HOA shoreline. Clipboard in hand, heels punching holes in the damp grass, she marched right up and announced that fishing was restricted to dues-paying members only and demanded my resident ID card. I told her politely that I did live here. She squinted, said she'd never once seen me at a meeting or social, and that was the green light for war. First came the official warning letters on embossed HOA stationery taped to my mailbox: loitering without authorization, violating quiet hours by fishing before 7. Apparently, the splash of a lure is deafening. And, most recently, multiple resident complaints about a suspicious person lurking near the lake. I knew those complaints were fiction. I own every lot, everyone, with direct sight lines to my fishing rock. When the letters failed to chase me off, Denise upgraded to daily dawn patrols, high-powered binoculars, a small spiral notebook, and a phone always recording. She was convinced I was some squatter who'd cracked the gate code and maybe even broken into a vacant mansion. She told anyone who'd listened that the scruffy guy in faded clothes who never showed up to potlucks was clearly up to something. What Denise never bothered to check, despite her obsession with control, was the county plat map. I don't just own a house here. I own the whole western shore, including the chunk where the HOA, without ever asking, poured the concrete for their precious community dock. More than that, I own the lake itself. Every drop of water, every bass cruising the weed lines, every pebble on the bottom. My grandfather bought the entire basin and surrounding acreage 60 years ago, long before Pine Hollow Shores was even a gleam in a developer's eye. That particular morning had started like all the others. Up at 5:30, coffee, down to the water in my ancient hoodie and jeans. Mist curling off the surface, bass smashing shad, perfect conditions. I'd already caught and released 2 when I noticed Denise perched on the hill, binoculars locked on me. This time her phone was out, and she was talking fast. Snatches floated down on the breeze, armed with fishing gear. Erratic behavior, refusing to leave the property. Yes, I do feel threatened. Send someone now. She dialed 911 because a man was fishing. By the time the cavalry arrived, she'd worked herself into full righteous fury, pacing the dock my dock and practicing what she called her citizen testimony. She'd told the dispatcher I was potentially armed and behaving aggressively, even though I'd been parked on the same boulder for an hour, quiet as a heron. 3 marked units rolled excellently, but with the full light show, which told me they were treating it as legitimate, but not lights and sirens urgent. Officers fanned out, hands resting near holsters, while Denise pointed and yelled about trespassing and vagrancy, and repeated warnings. The lead cop, a seasoned sergeant named Patterson, started toward me with his partners flanking. 10 yards out, he slowed, eyes widened, and he raised a flat hand to halt the others. He keyed his shoulder mic, muttered something I couldn't catch, then looked straight at me and said the sentence that shut Denise up mid-rant. "Mr. Vance. Sir, it is you. I didn't realize. We're terribly sorry for the trouble. The funny thing about living off the grid, even when you're worth billions, is that the handful of people who do know your face never, ever forget it." Sergeant Patterson didn't recognize me from some society page or neighborhood picnic. He knew me from the giant brass plaque in the lobby of the new police headquarters. I'd quietly paid for 2 years earlier, $10 million for the building itself, plus every rescue boat, dive gear set, and sonar unit the department now owned. Every cop in the county had memorized the name on that plaque, even if most had never seen the man behind it. Denise's expression slid from victorious to bewildered as all 6 officers pivoted away from me and fixed their attention on her. Patterson's face had gone from cautious professional to thinly veiled disgust. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and even, "do you have any idea who you just called 911 on?" She started babbling about a vagrant, months of suspicious activity, her voice cracking on every other word. Patterson glanced at me. I gave him a small nod. "This is Miles Vance," he said, letting the name land like a gavel. "He owns the biggest parcel in Pine Hollow Shores. He's also the single largest donor this department has ever had. And according to county records, he owns the ground you're standing on right now." I reached into my dry bag and pulled out the clear plastic sleeve I'd started carrying the day Denise declared war. Original 1965 deed, survey plats, and the lake title signed by my grandfather. I handed the stack to Patterson. The younger cops leaned in, lips twitching as they scanned the documents. It was all there in black and white. I didn't just own my house. I owned the entire western shoreline, including the concrete slab the HOA had poured for their community dock, without ever asking permission. The lake itself had never left family hands. Patterson handed the papers back and turned to Denise. The color had drained from her face, leaving 2 bright spots of humiliation on her cheeks. "Ma'am, you just made a false 911 report. You've also been harassing Mr. Vance on his own private property. The dock you're standing on is, technically, an illegal structure on his land. Right now, what makes you the trespasser?" Denise's mouth opened and closed like a large myth I'd released an hour earlier. She tried to summon something about bylaws and covenants, but Patterson shut her down that noise fast. "Furthermore," he continued, "Mr. Vance could have you arrested right here for false report, harassment, and trespassing. Those are charges that carry real jail time and real fines." I watched her little empire collapse in real time. The clipboard, the designer leggings, the self-appointed crown, all meaningless now. Patterson asked if I wanted to press charges. I thought about the letters taped to my mailbox, the binoculars. Every dawn, the knocks from code enforcement she'd personally summon. Then I offered a different solution, one that would hurt longer than a night in county lockup. I'd drop everything if Denise agreed to 3 things. A formal public apology, read aloud at the next HOA meeting, immediate resignation as president. The HOA would remove its illegal dock within 30 days, at its expense. She started to argue. Patterson reminded her that a false 911 call alone could mean a year behind bars and a $5,000 fine. Add harassment and trespassing, and she was looking at another 9 months and thousands more. Tears cut black mascara rivers down her face as she nodded. One of the officers produced a clipboard, an ironic touch, and she signed a written admission and agreement right there on the dock. She no longer had a right to stand on. A cruiser followed her home to make sure she didn't circle back. Patterson stayed to take my statement, apologizing at least 4 times. Word tore through Pine Hollow Shores like a brush fire. By dinner time, every mailbox had the story. The emergency board meeting that night was packed. Denise stood at the podium, voice trembling, and read the apology I'd dictated. She admitted to harassing a resident, filing a false police report, and abusing her office. Then she resigned and walked out to dead silence. In damage control panic, The board voted unanimously to dismantle the dock and issued their own groveling apology to me. While they were at it, someone finally looked at the books. Turns out Denise had been writing fines without approval and skimming the cash. A forensic audit uncovered $42,000 missing, 2 weeks late. The DA's office slapped cuffs on her in the middle of an open house. Right in front of a stunned couple she was trying to sell a 4-bedroom colonial to. The local news ate it up. HOA President arrested for embezzlement after botched trespass call. The trial was quick. The evidence was airtight. She was convicted on 3 counts of embezzlement, 2 of fraud, and the false report Karjatha in the courthouse seemed to hate most. The judge gave her 18 months and ordered $75,000 in restitution and fines. As the bailiff clicked the cuffs, Denise looked straight across the courtroom at me. The shock in her eyes said everything. All this because I didn't like a quiet man fishing on his own lake.